It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the Classic Metal Show. The name of that tune there is called A Dark Horse, one of Chris's favorites, and that comes from an album called The Power of Three, and that's by our next guest, Chris, Monte Pittman. And now this guy is no slouch.
No, this is a player.
Yeah, this guy's been around. He's, believe it or not, and not that this fits the classic metal mode, but this guy, don't tell anybody, Chris, but he plays with Madonna.
What?
He plays with Madonna.
Must be kidding.
But for the metal guys out there who might think that's not so cool, this guy also plays with Propane.
Oh, Prong.
Oh, Prong?
He's in Prong.
Oh,
man.
sorry. I got the P's mixed up. All right, but anyway, I want to welcome to the Classic Metal Show for the first time, Monte Pittman. How are you, Monte?
I am doing great. How are you guys? Good to hear from you.
Good. Well, we're glad to have you here on the Classic Metal Show. My partner, Chris, he said, man, you got to hear this Monte Pittman release. This thing kicks ass. And not only that, but this guy has quite a history.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been going on my 14th, well, this year will mark the 14th year of the first performance I did with Madonna.
Sure.
And then I would switch time between Madonna and Prong. But I'll have to check and see if Propane needs a guitar.
Yeah, my mistake there, Monty. Sorry.
Another great. No, I'm just going. It's funny. Yeah, you'd always see their name in the record store. Like they'd always be the next one. And Prince, Prong, and Propane. They should do a tour together.
Exactly.
Well, Monty, let's talk about the wide range of musicianship that you have. I mean, obviously we mentioned Madonna, we mentioned Prong. You've also played with Adam Lambert, which is, I guess closer to the Madonna side than Prong. But what happened in your life musically that allowed you to have that kind of diversity, not only for the ear of it, but for the actual ability to perform in such different styles?
Well, to start off, I was fortunate to have an amazing guitar teacher growing up. It's a guy named Robert Browning. He still teaches in the city that I'm from, Longview, Texas. And, I still hit him up with questions all the time. And that was one thing, and he would teach us every kind of music. And if you understand the music theory side of it, which is something that you always are learning about, you never learn all of it. There's always something to learn. I mean, I tell people there's only so many notes that you can play. You've got 7 notes in a major scale, and it's just the combination of those and putting it's kind of the effect that you put with it.
Sure, definitely.
One of the lessons that he used to do, like if you play like a chord, like play a G chord, and you play it in one way and say, okay, what kind of music is this? And then someone say, oh, it's country. And then he turns on the amp, the distortion and plays it, another way. So here's the same chord. What kind of music is this? Well, now it's rock, and that's all just kind of the effect that you put behind it.
Sure. Well, when you're playing, how difficult is it for you, to not, I mean, I'm going to guess here and say metal guys almost universally want to rip on guitar. That's just kind of the metal thing. And I'm going to assume that you're like that too, from listening to the Power of Three and from listening to the Prong records. How difficult is it for you to not necessarily do that when you're playing like in a Madonna show or with Adam Lambert or something that is not, fast and furious type of music?
Well, it's all about balance, really. I mean, and it depends on if the song calls for that. For my music, for the Monte Pittman music, and for everything that's on the Power of Three, guitar solos work. They don't necessarily work to me for a lot of Madonna stuff. Right. There's a couple of times where I've done solos, but there's also been times where the musical director would say, hey, man, I hear you doing a solo right here, and I'd be like, really? Like, it just doesn't seem like it fit. It's not that kind of music. And as far as like ripping, like on the guitar, to me it's like talking. And you want to have a little bit of it, but you don't, no one wants to hear somebody just talk fast constantly and never take a breath. I'm
Right.
kind of more of the kind of like what David Gilmour just play a couple of notes, and he says more in those notes than a lot of people can say playing all of them. You don't get paid by the note,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I love ripping on the guitar just as much as anybody else. There's nothing that beats taking your electric guitar and turning it into an amp and cranking it all the way up.
Well, Monty, how angry do you have to be in a band called Prong? Just think about it. Prong. Isn't that like one of the most angry band names you ever heard in your life?
It sounds pretty angry. Yeah, it sounds pretty angry there. Yeah. It was a lot of fun though. We had some really good times in Prong.
Sure. Well, getting back to your solo release here, obviously you're very busy with other projects outside of your solo release. How did this one come together? Were you writing this, during your, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, while doing your job with other artists, or did you do this, while you were off the road, or how does that work for you?
I put together a majority of this stuff on this camping trip I did out in Death Valley with my acoustic. And that came after I finished my second album, Pain, Love, and Destiny. So that album was done. And then it's like every time I finish one project, I kind of see where the next is going to go, and I need to get as much of that out of my system as possible. There's a few riffs that I had for a few years, like a couple parts in A Dark Horse and a couple parts in Delusions of Grandeur. And they just all started coming together. My first album was just an acoustic album, acoustic guitar and vocal, and I did that so I could recreate it anywhere. Because I would, like you asked about Adam. Adam was a singer for my band before he went on American Idol, and Tommy Victor played in that band also. He played bass in that band, and it was really hard getting everybody together because each person in the band would have other gigs, either outside of town going on tour or something in town, and then you'd always have to turn down when a gig became available. So I started playing on my own, doing acoustic shows. Now, some of those acoustic shows, or the acoustic songs on that album, when I played them live, or like up until recently, they would come across as a heavy song. Like there's a song on that first album called Out of the Black, and that was written as a heavy song, but I just recorded it acoustic so I could go play it, and it's still like the album. So after doing the second album, Pain, Love, and Destiny, that had acoustic guitar, same kind of thing, but then with drums and bass, and I started adding some electric guitar solos, and then there you got to put an electric guitar part that goes with that, because it's not like I'm going to set down the acoustic in the middle of the song and then pick up the electric and start doing a solo and then put it back down, although I did attempt that. But that led to me saying, okay, I need faster songs and heavier songs, and then that brought me to this point of writing these songs. And I was going to get with Fleming Rasmussen and we did an acoustic EP, and then I gave him all my demos that I was working on, and he was listening to my heavy songs, and he's like, this is what you need to be doing right here. So he really pushed me, not that I wasn't already going there, but he really helped me kind of focus on that, and that's one of the many traits that he has as a genius producer, is getting your head into the game, getting you to focus, and then after recording those, the Power 3, I played it for Brian Slagle, and then he signed me to Metal Blade. So it's it has been a long road getting here, and every little detail is important in the whole story.
Sure. Well, you mentioned Fleming Rasmussen. And, obviously he's worked with Metallica. How did you end up working with him? Where did you end up meeting him or, striking up a relationship with him?
I met him on a day off when I was in Copenhagen on tour, and we kept in contact over the last few years. And if I'd come to Copenhagen, get together, have a couple of beers, and talk about what working on, and we were just saying like, hey, well, one day we got to work on something together. And when I was coming through town, it was in summer of 2012, had a day off, and he said, hey, well, let me fire up the studio and let's see what we do. And we knocked out 4 acoustic songs in one day, and that's what one of the things that led to everything.
Sure.
And what really appealed to me, of course, there's the Metallica thing, but also what a lot of people don't realize is that he did Cat Stevens, Rainbow, Morbid Angel, and so he's touched on several genres of music. And the way he records is he doesn't just record the band and the music, but the sounds in the room all work together also. You hear like this, in the Power of Three, you hear this signature kind of sound that he gets. That, like, what's kind of cool is if you listen to the Power of Three and then you listen to Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets right after it, there's similar tones. I mean, a lot of it's the same gear. We use the same microphones and a lot of the same. It was recorded the same way on some of the same gear. You just take Metallica away and put us in there.
Well, speaking of
more modern, make it now.
Well, speaking of sounds and tones, there, Monty, have you mastered the trichord, and is heavy metal truly the devil's music?
Are you talking about a diminished chord, the tritone?
Yeah, the trichord, the tritone. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where that term comes from. They used to call that the devil in music. That was, it was. I don't know what the actual story is. I tried to find this recently. Actually, funny you bring that up. But how that was, if it was one, I guess back in the medieval days, I'm sure if someone sang that note, they would get reprimanded. I don't know what kind of trouble they would get into, but that's where that term comes from. And that's a diminished chord, which is the 7th chord that you'll get in a family of notes. If you're in C, then by the time you get to the B, that's your diminished. But here's my kind of, I guess, argument on that is that's still just a combination of the notes of the C of a C major scale, but then also those repeat every 3 frets. So if you play a B diminished, then you can also play a D diminished, an F diminished, and then that will give you a G sharp diminished, which isn't even in the key of C.
Right. I hear you. Well, Monty, let's talk about what had to be. I can't imagine you've played a bigger gig than this, but just because you're the first person I've ever been able to talk to that's done it, talk about the experience of playing that Super Bowl halftime show in front of 50 million people or whatever that is with the television audience. Yeah. What was that like? And do you get butterflies, or have you just done it so many times that it's old hat, or what?
No, I've never get nervous. The only time I've ever been nervous is on a Prong show when we had to play after Napalm Death. But it was a great experience. I really appreciate that lately because I've been getting into football, and I never got into sports before. Not that I didn't like it, I don't have time to take. Lately the Sundays are taking up my entire day because I got to watch both games.
Right.
And the whole experience is you get ready, you do so much rehearsal, and then it's over so fast. But you get ready. I mean, the things I remember are all the there's so much security you go through just to get there. It's like 3 airport securities worth, and there's really nowhere. You watch the game from the hallway because they have TVs in there and it's on there, but you can't stand in the corridor and watch the game. But we, pretty much as soon as the game starts, you go in the dressing room and start getting dressed and get ready. And by the second quarter, you're in the corridor, in the corridor to be held to go get on the field. So I got to see a little bit of the game right at the end of the second quarter. And then right as soon as that's over with and they clear the field of the teams, then someone says, all right, go. And then you start walking to your spot on the field. And that's a trip because, I mean, the Super Bowl is happening right then and there, right? You know, like that game is happening, and there you are on that field. And, I mean, I took my guitar off and laid it on the grass and took a picture of it. So you get there, and everybody's moving at the same time, and then everything comes together. Everybody's working together, and lights go down. They announce the performance is starting, and then we play 4 songs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, you know, it went by fast, like 10 minutes, I think.
Right.
And it was great. You know, I tell people I had the best seat in the house, really.
Sure. Well, the 50-yard line's not a bad place to stand, man.
No, not at all. And there's times you're playing like, oh man, this is happening. And then there's times it was when we played Like a Prayer, and that was the last one. And the audience all had these like little LED lights, and it lit up the whole place. You know, everybody having these little lights. That was so cool. I mean, I just don't know how to describe that vision from where we were looking at that.
Sure.
And then, you know, things go through your head like, you know, everybody I have ever met in my life is watching this right now. And that was, I think, the highest watched. More people watched that halftime show than watched the actual game. It was at the time, it was like the highest watched thing, and one of the highest watched things in TV history, or something like that. A lot of people watched it.
Monty.
And then afterwards you're done, and then you go back, and then everybody tears the stage down, and it's gone, and then the game keeps going, and you get get dressed and
shown the door.
That's it. Well, go back to the hotel and hit the hotel bar.
Well, Monty, was there any concern for you personally that you would suffer a wardrobe malfunction and you wouldn't be allowed to ever perform at a halftime show ever again?
No, I actually had all this armor on, some sort of knight's armor. So if that would have happened, it would have been a big clank, big heavy metal. I was the most heavy metal person at the Super Bowl because that's what I was wearing.
Definitely.
No, I didn't worry about that.
Right. Well, Monty, I'm just curious, and you know, you don't have to answer this one, but I'm just curious. After this much time, and you know, after 14 years of playing with Madonna, and obviously you've played in other acts that have had success. Does that make a person like yourself wealthy or comfortable living, or do you still have to scrap for every dollar, or where does that leave you? You know, because especially obviously in the Madonna camp, you know, certainly that's one of the top probably 5 biggest grossing acts anytime she decides to tour.
Yeah, I mean, you know, things come and go because like we toured all of 2012, but none of 2013.
Right.
So it all kind of balances out one way or another.
Okay. All right, fair enough, man. Well, what
you got to always be putting wood in the fire, and you got to always be working. There's no time to ever stop.
Sure.
Once you stop, that fire dies down.
Right, definitely. So Monty, getting back to the Power of 3, what are your goals for the record? I mean, do you have sales goals, or is it just something you put out because you want it to be out there, or what exactly do you hope to accomplish with this record?
Well, this is really like a new beginning, or a new era, or a new chapter, however you'd want to say it. And you know, one step at a time. And the first thing, I mean, sure, I could say, hey, I want to do the halftime of the Super Bowl, but you know, we got to take steps to get there. That's not going to happen overnight. First goal is getting this album out, which comes out Tuesday, and then we just we released the video for the second single, which is called Before the Morning Sun, that came out Tuesday. And it's already had over 10,000 views. I mean, the response has been great for that. And people are just now getting to hear me do my solo material, and where it's come. You know, it's finally come full form. It's finally come to life. And so the first thing is getting this music out to everybody, and booking as many shows as I can. I got February 22nd booked at the Whiskey in L.A. And so from there on, you know, my goal is San Diego, and then Phoenix, and then Vegas, and then San Francisco, and just keep spreading it out. And, you know, and play this material in front of anybody and everybody that I can. So far, I mean, the response has just been, everybody is so happy with the response, because the reviews have all been like 9 out of 10 and 4 out of 5. And so that's just to keep getting it out there. I mean, obviously I want it to be as successful as it can possibly be, but that doesn't happen just because you want it to happen. You have to work to do that. And there's a lot of convincing, I think, to do with some people. You know, I'm not going to lie about that. You know, when metal people hear about Madonna, they're like, what? Is he doing a pop album? And, you know, not that, I don't think you can compare Madonna to any other pop artist, so that's not a fair assessment. But if there was another pop artist besides her and someone said, oh, hey, did you hear their guitar player did a metal album? I'd be like, okay. So I understand that people are going to be kind of like, well, so what? But then hopefully they hear the music and they judge it for themselves. And, I mean, it is a return to heavy music, and it really is for me doing that for my own material. But when I grew up in Texas, I had a metal band there. And we, you know, we played my first show when I was 14, so I've been doing that since then. But when I moved from Texas to Los Angeles, you know, the band split up, and then that's when I joined Prong. So then I had that. But at the end of the day, that's Tommy Victor's band. And, you know, I'm happy and fortunate to have been involved, especially to get it going. And so that brings it here. So just taking it one step at a time.
Well, Monte, you've had quite a ride so far, and you've got this new CD, "The Power of Three," that you know, you're obviously very passionate about and are going to go out there and work it hard. So where can people find out about you?
Well, my website is www.montepittman.com, MontePittman. And you can also find information at metalblade.com/Monte Pittman. Basically, if you just go on Google and type in Monte Pittman, you'll find whatever you need.
Excellent. All right. Well, the new Monte Pittman release is called "The Power of Three." So go out there and check it out. Pick it up today and enjoy.
Well, it Tuesday.
And well, enjoy that. And before we let you go, there, Monte, we have a classic metal show traditional question we always ask our artists.
All right.
How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
With his bass style, I guess his bass attack. You know, he's a master of the Rickenbacker, and his sound just like when I played bass in Prong, that was my main kind of I guess template or influence of what I was going for, of what I wanted to add. So when I played guitar in Prong, but then I didn't think I was going to be able to do it anymore, and then I came back to play bass, and that was to fill in for Paul Raven, who was going to come back. And then he had other commitments, and then unfortunately he passed away right after all of that anyway. Which, by the way, it's his birthday, so happy birthday out there to Raven. And so, yeah, that's where I would say that Lemmy has been an influence. Mickey D, the drummer, is kind of like family to me. And so he's a great guy, too. Motorhead's a killer band. And another influence, not just his bass playing, is, you know, him as a person. He's a badass. And he keeps going. And he'll always be remembered as a legend. He's one of those musicians whose music will last longer than he does.
Sure.
And that's what you want as an artist.
Right. All right, Monte. Well, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us here on the Classic Metal Show. The new one is called "The Power of Three." So we're going to let you pick a closing song off the new release there, Monte, and maybe tell us a quick story about it.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Let's do. Have you played anything before off the album?
No, we played a dark horse for you, so you got the rest of the album to pick from.
Let's go with the second track right after that. It's called Delusions of Grandeur. And that song pretty much says you got to be fucking crazy to be doing this.
Well, it seems to have served you well.
I'm too crazy to give. I'm too stupid to give up.
Right. All right. Well, here it is. This is Monte Pittman with Delusions of Grandeur exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.